denied by the federal court. Chief Marshall is the chief monitor that we have, and we're going to talk to you briefly about why we're here, hopefully why you're here, and what the order is all about, and what we've done so far about the order. Some of the members of the monitoring team are here: Chief Tiger, General Authority, Ms. Ramirez, Major Peters. There's other members that come back and forth to visit the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and give our advice, our observations. Basically, the role of the monitor is to make sure that the order that was submitted by the order is compliant. We don't work for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. We don't work for the plaintiffs. We're like umpire at one place today that's in the Kansas City San Francisco game. He's making the calls at home plate as the umpire sees it. Safe or out, depending on what they see. Before we do our presentation, I'd like to introduce Mr. Josh Bender from the ACLU. Josh, please come up, please.
Thanks, Chief Martinez. My name is Josh Bender. I'm with the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union of Arizona. And I just wanted to give sort of a brief background of the litigation that led to why we're here, just sort of context for everybody. So in 2008, the ACLU and other cooperating groups brought this lawsuit on behalf of a class of plaintiffs, Latino passenger and drivers in Maricopa County, alleging that the sheriff and the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and the county were engaging in practice of targeting Latino passengers and drivers for traffic stops. So that was 2008. In 2012, there was a 3-week trial for Federal District Court Judge Snow, in which there were numerous witnesses who appeared from the Sheriff's Office and others. Hundreds of pages of evidence were introduced. And Judge Snow then wrote a long opinion making findings of fact, almost a book, 142 pages. And he concluded on the basis of the evidence that was presented to him that there had been an agency-wide practice at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office of using race in violation of the Constitution. And then after May 2013, there was a conversation among the parties with the court, what do we do with that? And so last October, Judge Snow issued a very detailed remedial order in which he set forth all the different steps that he decided the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office needed to take in order to change its practices and to come into compliance and seize its fair policy. So part of that just meant stopping doing some of the intentional practice before, but it also included changes in policies, training all personnel from deputies to posse to command staff on certain constitutional issues, data collection, so the public could be aware of who was being stopped and when, the use of cameras. You may have seen in the Arizona Republic mentioned yesterday. Now there are going to be body cameras that the Sheriff's Office can be using to record interactions with civilians, and community outreach like this, as well as the creation of the monitor that Chief Martinez is part of to oversee these reforms. And ultimately, the bottom line importance of this is to make sure that the practices that Judge Snow found changed and that the Sheriff's Office came into compliance with the Constitution. So the case was only brought because there were people who were involved in their community, took the time to come forward about what was going on with them, and they were courageous. And now we're at the remedial effort, the monitoring effort, and that's only going to be successful if members of the community are involved as well, because every time there's a traffic stop, the monitoring staff isn't there, I'm not there, and so what matters is that the community is there and is part of this effort to create an improved Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. So we hope you'll continue to be part of this. Your presence here is important, and if there are things that you're aware of, we hope you'll bring those to our attention, bring those to the monitor's attention, bring those to the Sheriff's Office attention. So that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Next, I want to call Chief Deputy Sheriff.
Thank you, Ron. Well, again, I'd like to Welcome everyone for coming tonight, and I really want to tell you the efforts that the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, all its employees, especially the sworn deputies under the direction of the sheriff, have made and are making, and the progress that we've made since the order came out last year. And with that, we've conducted many audits internally ourselves with the help of the monitor team. Also, we continually conduct audits on what we're doing on our traffic stop data and those kinds of things. We've amended 11 policies and procedures. We constantly, on an annual basis, revise our policies. Our policy manual is our living document of who the Sheriff's Office and what the Sheriff's Office really is. And we do that on a continual basis anyway, but in this case, we focused on 11 specific policies that dealt with the court order. Training is currently underway by an order of the court for 20 hours mandatory training for all deputies and posse members that will make traffic stops or be involved in enforcement actions. As of last week, the end of last week, we had all but 4 of our sworn deputy sheriffs that have been through the training, and we've had almost 1,000 posse members either through the training or scheduled for the training through next month. We've developed supervisor training, and matter of fact, I was in a supervisor's class today, and I will be tomorrow and Friday. This is something more than the judge ordered us to do. This was something that we had planned a while back. And one of the things that the instructor talked about today was people don't change things unless something is wrong. And he gave the analogy of Bill Clinton having a 5-way bypass. That was a significant event in his life. Changed the way he ate and exercised. And if you look at him today, he is, and he's also a vegan now, so he's a man that looks healthy and has changed his life because of that significant event. The way I look at this court case, the Melendrez order, is a significant event in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. What this does is it makes us a better law enforcement agency in the long run. And that's what we're doing. We're continuing the improvement of what we do each and every day. We've developed a system called TRACS that keeps track of traffic stop data. This case really surrounded the issues around traffic stops, and now we're able to track the data of who we stop, how long we stop them, and the reason we stop them, and many other indicators that are interested, that the court's interested. And all our patrol vehicles are now equipped with this system. We've established an early intervention system. This is a system that's designed to help us identify deputies who may be getting into trouble before they do get into trouble. It's a system very common and used in many law enforcement agencies across the country. And what we do is we set up different parameters, different indicators of behaviors. How many times somebody has complained about them, how many uses of forces they may have had, those kinds of things. So we can track them and address them before they become an issue, a disciplinary issue. We've established a maximum ratio of sergeants to deputy sheriffs. So we have more leadership now on the road. So deputies, if they have questions, we have them readily answered. You know, Maricopa County is 9,226 square miles with over 4 million people that live here. It's very spread out. we have lakes and rivers that are geographically isolated from one another. District 3, we have areas that we're in the District 3 substation area, that we have areas that are densely populated like Sun City, Sun City West, and then we have areas that are very sparsely populated like Aguila, and it's even a far distance from here. So we needed more leadership on the road. Judge recognized that, and now we have the resources and the sergeants out there. We promoted. Hey, do you remember how many sergeants were promoted since January? About 45 to 50 sergeants since January. We established a community outreach bureau division to do our version of these town hall meetings. These meetings today are ordered by the court, conducted by the monitor, but we have also continued to do community outreach. We do Assistance Academy, and you're all invited to come to Assistance Academy, be part of that. We've been doing that for years, but we stepped up the intensity of doing that. We also held an Assistance Academy in Spanish only. That's currently ongoing. A couple of weeks ago we started that. We've established a Bureau of Internal Oversight. This was a bureau that will continue to do the audits and continue to do what the monitor does now after the monitor team leaves the sheriff's office someday. We don't know when that's going to be, but when the monitor team, when we are in full compliance, and then we have 3 years to be in full compliance, and then when the court decides that we're in compliance for 3 years, the monitor team leaves, we're not going to stop looking at all this information, and that's what the Bureau of Internal Oversight is for, to continue to monitor to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Our receipt of complaints and information from the public, we have made access to information about how to make a complaint against an employee easier for the public to understand. It's online. You can do it directly at the substations. You can do it over the phone. And when, for example, when somebody gets stopped and gets a traffic ticket, they also get information on how to contact us. And you can also contact us with good information. As you can see, we've been very busy at the Sheriff's Office making these improvements, and we will continue to make them. We will continue to make them long after the monitor's gone. One of the things that I like to talk about is the reason we're doing these things is we can get better every day. It's a continual improvement process. Every day we wake up as individuals, as people, we know we can do better in our own personal lives, and that's the way I bring that philosophy to the Sheriff's Office. But we need you, the public, like Chief Martinez said, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but from the person from the ACLU representative here, we need your participation to help us along. Law enforcement agency is made up of the people from their community. And just to underscore that, I'll give you the demographics. And this changes, so this information is a month old. So the exact numbers may change a little bit. But as of October, we had 3,425 employees. 25% of those are Latino. The Maricopa County population is 29%. Our African American demographics within the Sheriff's Office is 6%. The Maricopa County population is 5.6%. We have people from over 30 different countries that are represented by the Sheriff's Office. That Sheriff Joe Arpaio started many years ago. districts, and over 30 of those are represented in the sheriff's office. 3 of the highest ranking law enforcement officials are Hispanic, Mexican Americans, and 2 of them are here today. So this one. Thank you, Chief.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Kyler, and I'm one of the monitoring team members with Chief Warshaw. I want to do a couple things here. First, tell you a little bit about hopefully why we're here and all of you are here. Talk a little bit about what the order has required us to do, and then talk a little bit about the progress that has been made as we have been here the past number of months. So hopefully the reason all of you are here is the same reason that we're here and that I believe MCSO is here, and that is to build and gain trust, not only in the process, but in the organization as a whole. So we are required by the court order, I think as the Chief Deputy already said, to hold a number of community meetings here in the Valley, in each district. And I know this is a huge district, so I'm guessing some of you might have driven a long way to get here. Yeah? Yeah, I see your head shaking there. And we've had that in all the districts, and we've been asked, why are you having it here as opposed to closer to where I live? And we're working through this as we do these meetings, and we are required to have at least one in each of the districts. So as we get to questions and answers later, if you have an idea as to where perhaps we should conduct meetings in the future, we'd certainly be glad to hear that. But the whole point of us being here and you being here is to have conversation. After we tell you a little bit about what we're doing and the progress that has been made, we want you to tell us, and certainly to tell the members of the MCSO, what your perspective is, what you see, what your concerns are, or what the good things are that you see. We are here to hear from you. That's our primary purpose. These meetings are also going to be based on attendance over time. And there's fortunately a whole bunch of people here. And I'm going to talk to all of you right here, right now, because that's MCSO and us on either side here. We need to hear from you. We need to hear from our neighbors and the people you know about the service. So a little bit of history about what the order requires and what we have done today. One of the first and foremost things the order requires is that there be an implementation team developed in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department to be responsible for the oversight of all the court order changes. And there are a number of representatives from that team here tonight. And they're pretty much their full-time job to make sure that the order of the judge is implemented. There are some specific requirements regarding policies and procedures, prohibiting discriminatory policing and racial profiling. That is certainly part of what this whole issue was, and you certainly heard that from the ACLU. Prohibiting law enforcement actions based on race or ethnicity, mandating that there is bias-free policing and bias-free traffic enforcement. And it also provides direction as to the enforcement of immigration law by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, or in fact, the prohibition of the enforcement of immigration law. There's also a number of requirements for pre-planned operations. If the MCSO has a pre-planned operation that meets certain criteria, it has to be carried out in a race-neutral fashion. There has to be an approval process. There has to be a review process. So what I think you're hearing here is there's a lot of process. There's a lot of things that have been put in place. There's some 100 or more paragraphs that have to be complied with. And this is not an overnight process. This is not something that the MCSO or anyone else could accomplish in 20 minutes. It is a process that's ongoing. It's a learning process, I think, for everyone who's involved in the process. And we'll be talking a little more, Chief Martinez will be talking a little more about what happens since all of this was mandated and has all started. There is also some specific training that has been mandated, and that is both 4th and 14th Amendment training. And the MCSO is currently conducting that training for everyone, every sworn officer and posse member in their agency. It's a lengthy, I think it's about 18 hours of training, 20 hours. You into that training, sir? So it's about 20 hours of training, and it is mandatory for all of the posse members and deputies. So that's ongoing and scheduled to finish, I think, the first week of December. And they've been training 6 days a week up until recently. I think they moved to all weekends now, but they're down to some other numbers. There's also a mandate for some supervisory training. We've been working build the confidence in the community, you build the organization, you do the bias-free training, you do the arrest detention training, you also train supervisors, so that everybody's on the same page and everybody has the same expectations. There's also procedures for making traffic stops, there's a data collection process, and many of these things have also required that there be equipment purchase and items that MCSO didn't previously had. So again, this is an in-progress kind of thing and not something that happens overnight. And then finally, and kind of the big thing, there is a requirement for what's called an early identification system, and that's a system to identify employees who might be engaging in questionable behavior before things get bad. I mean, it really is, in my estimation at least, something that's intended to help employees to identify problem behavior, to identify issues, to identify concerns, and deal with those concerns before it becomes a real organizational issue or a disciplinary issue. So that's kind of a brief overview of some of the highlights of what the order requires. Chief Martinez is going to talk a little bit about what our role is, what the monitor's role is, and what our first report said about the progress to date, and then it'll be time for all of you to engage and look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Carter. Let me add something else to what the Chief said. Even though the class of lawsuits were a lot about all the changes, all the implementation that the order mandates, affects everybody. Doesn't matter who they're stopping, doesn't matter who they're addressing, doesn't matter who they're arresting. It's an impact on all the people that get stopped, they get arrested, they get cited, etc. Get the same rights as Latinos, as African Americans, as Anglos, females, males, etc. It doesn't matter. All the changes impact on everybody, which provides a better police department, better policing to you who are paying their salaries at the same time. Talk to you about what the role of the monitor. As I said before, Chief Marshall, this is the head of the monitoring group. Being under such an order, this is an order, not an agreement. It's not something that's rare. Chief Marshall is also the monitor in Oakland, the monitor in Niagara Falls, he was the monitor in Detroit, he was the monitor in New Jersey State Police, etc., etc. And there's other cities such as New Orleans, Seattle, etc., that are under a similar type of oversight by monitors. And it's not just negative monitoring, it's positive monitoring. Make sure that those police departments, that your police department, the people that you deal with on a daily basis, provide the best practices, they're equipped as they should be, they're trained as they should be. So as I said before, we work for the court. We don't work for Chief Sheridan. We don't work for the ACLU. We work for the court. And as working for the court, our job is only to make sure that those 59 pages of the order are compliant. That's our rule. That's what we found. There's hundreds of paragraphs, and I'll talk about some of those paragraphs in a couple of minutes, that our job is to make sure that, do they have a policy that covers that paragraph? Have they trained all the officers, all the deputies that they're, so it's impossible to tell somebody, you got to do it this way unless you train them to do it this way. So that's why Chief Sheridan and Chief Connors spoke up a few minutes ago. There's a lot of training going on to make sure that those deputies are receiving the up-to-date training, the correct type of training, that you need and you should have. After there's a policy, after there's training, then we go out in the field and there's forms. Are they doing what the training said that they should do? And there's forms that we created, report forms, tracks, e-learning, and a lot of systems that have been created. We can double check. If the policy says they were due with the left hand, they were trained to do it with the left hand, and there's a report that says, my God, they did it. So we can check out all three boxes. Once all three boxes are checked, we can say they're in compliance. It doesn't happen immediately. It's not something that the department does in the first day, the first month, the first year. It depends, on how difficult that task is. It depends how committed the agency is, and we're getting a lot of support. Lieutenant Molina is the deputy commander of the implementation unit, and we're talking with them a couple times a week about changes, about policies, about implementation, and the paper flow back and forth is humongous. We do audits. We show up at stations, all the time. We see good things. Sometimes we see things that are not so good, and we tell them we don't see it. It's not a secret. When we see something we don't like, we tell them. practice don't show this. Best practice, so we should do it this way. Some things that we suggest may not be within the order, but we can look. A typical police department does it this way. So we would suggest, even though you're not mandated to do it, that if you want to keep up with the Joneses, with the police department that are doing, they're doing policing in 2014, you should consider this type of policy. You give them sample policies for this police department, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. But in policing is not something that you're the first one to do it. The issue of body cameras is something that has been the topic in the last few months, and they're in the process of acquiring body cameras. And you all have seen in your news, almost every week when there's an incident, and you can see it live in color. What happened between the police officer and that person that there was an encounter. Most of those encounters, escalate the police, so it was a good right. The police did something wrong, that thing is going to show it. So it's also a guide for the policeman that anything that he or she does is going to be, in this probable news. The other thing that we're mandated to do by the order is hold meetings such as this. And it's important, that you show up, that you tell them what you like, that you tell them what you don't like. That's why they're here. They're the ones that can make the change. We're looking over their shoulders to make sure that the change is done. But the ones that are going to implement the change are the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. All we can do is write reports, make suggestions, but the change has to come from within. Most of our interactions with the troops, with the deputies that you deal with every day, are very positive. They're looking forward to change. They like the change, which is good. It's not an legislative resistant change. Let me talk to you about the progress so far. We were appointed in February this year, so it's not that it's been going on for a long time. Even though the litigation may have been going on for years, we started in February of this year. And I'll go through a list of things that have occurred so far. Like I said before, they have created what they call the CCID, Court Compliance and Implementation Division. That's mainly the conduit between us and the department, to converse, to discuss changes, to discuss policies, etc. That's the one that Lieutenant Molina is the deputy commander of. We have conducted, the department conducted its own initial comprehensive assessment earlier this year, and they self-assessed themselves on how their progress, how they perceive their own progress. We have conducted a number of site visits. We're here basically every month, sometimes we're here basically every week. We have some local folks that are here, so some of us are from the outside. We come in like a week and a half, or shorter, and we do our job that week. But we have people who live in Arizona, or just a local way. We have assisted, we have reviewed, and they have drafted a number of policies that didn't exist before, but they have amended a number of policies that existed before, but did not meet the requirements of the order, fell short in certain things, and we have approved quite a few. We submitted our first report in September, so it's basically a month, 5 to 6 weeks ago, and it covered the first 6 months period, from January until June 30th. It's not uncommon for the police department in the first report for them not to do real well. It's the first go around, first time somebody's shooting over the shoulder, first time somebody's getting a fence saying yes, no, pass, fail, so on and so forth. So it's not uncommon that the first report is not a positive. We all hope that the second report will be a little better, the report will be a little better, and from now going forward will be quarterly. Sometime in December will be our next report will be a second report will be a quarterly report. There's a number of paragraphs in this order. Some paragraphs are simple. You do this with the left hand. Other paragraphs say you do this, and it's got A to M. Left hand, left toe, left finger, so and so. And we got to make sure that when they're compliant, they're doing the left hand, left toe, left finger, that all those little things are done. And they can prove to us that they're doing it in all those sections. Sometimes it's a real simple paragraph to comply with, sometimes a real complex paragraph to comply. Our first assessment of the first 6 months of our involvement in this, we looked at 87 different paragraphs. There were operational paragraphs. Some paragraphs are conceptual. Provide, good policing, provide, et cetera, that is difficult to measure to say whether they do it or not. Some paragraphs are very specific. They shall do this. They should have no more than 12 deputies going to one supervisor. And we're checking things like that. They should have 20 hours worth of training on this topic. Some things are very simple to do. So if we look at those 87 paragraphs of the first go around, again, from the time period of January to June 30th, and some of those have changed already. From June 30th forward, some things have happened. But for that time period, of the 87 paragraphs, we find 11 of them that they were compliant. We said, yeah, we do know that there. And 76 of the 87, they were still not in full compliance. Again, some of those, they may have been A and B, but they didn't mean B, C, D, and F. Unless we read all the subsections of the paragraph, we're not compliant. Some of the highlights, some of the comments that we made in our report, some were positive, some were not positive. That some of the policies appeared to us that they were being developed in the back. Developed sometimes by the implementation unit, but the unit that has to do the work had very little involvement in the creation of the policy. Some of the we saw some problems with the internal affairs process. How the investigations have been conducted, how investigations sometimes have been kept by the internal affairs division, which is fine, but sometimes they've been sent to the district supervisor to conduct the investigation. With that supervisor that's doing the investigation, and a complaint you may have filed against a deputy, has received very little training on how to do that investigation. And some of them have told me, nobody ever trained me how to do this. So they're trying their best. This is okay, but there's a need for that supervisor. If you're going to hold a supervisor accountable for something, you got to train them. We're going to hold you accountable for that training. We have to train you. They did train you, and now they're going to hold you accountable because they showed you how to do it. The early EIS system, the early identification system, which Chief Turner spoke about, is in the process of beginning, and it's a very important tool. It's a tool that identifies a police officer before he's a headline in the newspaper. When they start seeing certain things that he or she is doing, calling it sick, late to work, sloppy, missing reports, those are indicators. Some indicators are positive indicators. Accommodation, he's a high producer, so it's a balance, and it's not just negative. Sometimes it's, hey, Joe, do you need help? It's their problem at home, whether we like it or not. Sometimes problems at home affect you at work, and it gives the department a tool to identify those officers before they're a headline, before it's a crisis, and be able to assist that officer, retrain that officer, remove that officer from the assignment and put him somewhere else where he or she may be more productive. A lot of training has occurred. Training on the 4th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. All the deputies are basically just about the entire sworn members of the department that were told today, only 7 of 10 are still missing. 4 now to attend the training. It's a mandated training. The training curriculum was created in combination with the plaintiffs, the defendants, and us. It was a painful document to put together for that training, but it's something that's acceptable to all parties, and it's probably one of the top trainings that people receive in the United States. So the officers know what they can do in a search, what is racial profiling, what they can do, and they're very clear that they're not allowed to affect immigration laws. The order is very specific. They don't have the capacity anymore. They don't have the authority anymore. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, you don't have the right to enforce the immigration laws. And training is one of the big portions of the order. It's one of the big commitments in the order. It's one of the big pieces that cost a lot of money because we take officers, then we have to speak, to attend training, taking policies from their commitment to the neighborhood, to spend time, in the training. But it's very important because you can't expect somebody to perform their role if they're not doing their role. Again, like Chief Conyer said, the whole purpose of the order is, it doesn't matter what we say, that they passed 13 out of 87, that they passed 76 out of 87, or next time they passed 50 out of 87 or 87. That's a paper exercise. The real proof of whether the department has improved as you. Do you feel better with your police? I That's the real measurement of success. It's not just us saying, telling the judge we work for it. Judge, we expect an 87th paragraph and compliance and X number and so on and so forth. But if you're still unhappy with the police that you see, it doesn't matter what we say. So it's important that you come out of meetings like this. It's important that after I close my mouth in 30 seconds, I can tell us how you feel. If you're happy, great. If you're not happy, tell us why. And if you're not happy and you tell us why, tell us how you will be happier. And unfortunately, policing is not a happy business. Most police encounters are not good encounters. The police will typically, they're here to help you, and the monitor team has a lot of law enforcement experience. We're not attorneys, we're not auditors, whatever. We're cops from other agencies that have been doing this for many years. I have gone through the ordeals of instances such as this, and hopefully can share some of our experiences, some of our learned experiences, some of the head knocks that we had in our police departments. As we're going up the chains of those police departments and share that experience in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. So, not to belabor this, now's your turn. Any questions, suggestions, anecdotes, the floor is yours. And please don't be shy to be the first one. If we would have heard much, we'll be home to watch the Kansas City and the San Francisco game. But please, again, the purpose of this exercise is to hear from you, not to hear from me. Any thoughts, ideas?
I got a question. My name is Jeff Jacobs. I'm a former DPS officer and the current candidate for Housing and Justice Worker. You have the checks and balances for the different districts. You're setting milestones in place on what's going to set off, an alert to look into a specific officer. But say you have an officer here in Sun City working, and then you have an officer in Buckeye. An officer in Buckeye stops 2 golf carts in the cell for a flag versus the demographic over here. So is it being adjusted accordingly per district, or is it how's that being adjusted? Because the demographics are so different for every district of MCSO.
Yeah, the parameters are not as performance-based as you're suggesting. If I make 20 arrests and you make 5 arrests, does light goes off because I'm making more arrests than you, or does the light go off because you're making less than me, so on and so forth. There are things that typically lead to incidents. There's I think it's like 35 or whatever little things that they look at. So possible, you make a lot of arrests. If you make a lot of arrests, you get no complaints, it's great. If you make a lot of arrests, you get a lot of complaints. There's nothing there. Some complaints may not be valid complaints. Some complaints are valid complaints. If you make very little arrests and then you get a lot of complaints, those are typically mixed. If you don't do any work and people are complaining about you, that doesn't say a lot about that definitely. But that by itself doesn't mean it. That by itself is telling the command side, I got to tell them what's going on. How come? And maybe there's an explanation. Maybe there's not an explanation. Maybe there's something going on in your life that's affecting you to do it. Maybe the system is misreading something. But that engagement has to happen early rather than a phone call that you call in the morning to the sheriff's station. Look what they've been doing. Maybe that is then maybe people there with the camera taking pictures and it'll be a headline or something that is too late. Well, you may have to be able to help them and don't. The key issue there.
And it really goes beyond citizen contact. Is this deputy get all of their reports kicked back because they don't write their reports? And does this deputy have small issues in the work site? It really is looking at the whole operator.
It would be more than just what they're
It's not just performance on the street. It is.
They call in or how
Is there any trigger that says to the agency, we need to take a look at this individual and see if we can either help them, train them, adjust them? Just because you get some complaints doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But if you get some complaints in the road, there's probably an indication that perhaps you could adjust your approach. And it's intended to be helpful before it becomes a crisis or a disciplinary issue.
And it looks, okay, your lecture works twice. Your reports are later every day. Yeah. But when you put them all together, when all the things are tied together, there could be something here. When you look at something by itself may not be that bad. Late to work twice in 6 months or a year, that can happen, traffic, whatever. But when you look late to work, reports late, get their kickback, 3 complaints, so when you put all things together, and the light goes off, lights do go off with this type of system, the warning system, you may want to talk to the homeowner. Because there may be something, maybe there's nothing wrong with it. But at least we make it as low, and we don't. Because we're seeing the path that we're taking now, it's not a good path. And including if you lose your job, or if you lose something that you may regret. And hopefully we will from the officer before you're calling the officer about the complaint. Look at what you just did.
Anyone else? And I think this might go to Chief, but it's off the track. I was at EPS when they started doing the track data. It's really evolved over time to now what the track system actually put together. Are they using the same system that EPS is using, or is that a similar system?
Lieutenant, do you know?
It's not the exact same, it's very similar.
Okay, and is that information accessible through the public information request when people can ask, certain officers, certain districts, are they able to communicate?
To the best of my knowledge, it is. I don't know 100%, but the last time I heard it was.
The Bureau of Internal Oversight, I mentioned that earlier. One of the things I failed to mention is the audits that they do, which one of their primary functions is the tracks auditing, will be made available on a separate website other than MCSO.org. And it will be posted on a quarterly basis, and it will be updated on a quarterly basis. So a lot of that data will. Now, I don't know whether or not you'll be able to drill down enough for an individual deputy sheriff or not.
I understand that. I just know you can skew that in a way that you take that and make look into it and adjust it. So I was just wondering how the request is done, if you could get that information, and you can make it look one way or another. So,
But Arizona has a very open public records law, and so it's difficult for public agencies to keep any of that information from the public when they request it. So when that information and that data is collected, the public definitely has access to it.
and then I have one more question. If no one else. I'm not trying to take everyone's time here, but you're going to body cams for all the officers.
Yes.
Are these going to be randomly monitored by their supervisors as well? I know it's tedious and time consuming, but just like having cameras in the patrol cars, supervisors had a certain amount of time they had to review those. Are they doing random reviews, not just based off of complaint files where they would pull up a date and time, where a supervisor could actually sit there and go through a few stops just to see how the officer was performing on those stops?
We haven't formulated that policy yet. We're just in the beginning stages of investigating that. Matter of fact, we're sending some of our staff members over to Oakland Police Department, who has had the on-body cameras in place for a while. The monitor team here is also the monitor team in Oakland, and so they've offered the services of the police chief in Oakland to help us with that. My opinion would be I'd like to have the sergeants randomly go through the traffic stop data. For example, you have a deputy sheriff makes 4 traffic stops a day, works a 3-day, we work 3-day work weeks, and let's say an average traffic stop from beginning to end, by the time all the paperwork's done and everything, let's say it takes 10 minutes. Okay, that would be 30 minutes a day times 3. That's an hour and a half. You've got a squad of 6 deputies. That's a lot of time for a sergeant to be reviewing every traffic stop. It's almost impractical. With all the other duties that the sergeants have to perform, you'd almost have them sitting in the office the whole time and not out on the road where they should be. So my preference would be a random audit. We do that in the jail system. All the jail systems in the new jails, we have thousands of cameras in the new jails. The sergeants and the lieutenants in the jail system randomly audit the videos, and exactly what you're talking about, to look for any aberrant behavior.
Yeah, I wasn't saying every stop, I was just, you know, you might get a couple indicators on someone, and you might want to check and see what they're doing outside. But I'm looking at that there's not, just not including race, but I'm seeing a bigger and bigger divide between law enforcement and community. You know, that separation just keeps, every little incident just keeps driving a bigger wedge in between, you know, and there's going to be a breaking point at some point. I just don't want to see that happen. You know, doing random audits, you know, if something just doesn't seem right, they look into a couple videos, see how those are. You may get the, you know, most people don't get stopped often, but you may get that one person that gets pulled over, and, you know, the cop's having a bad day, the person's having a bad day, that you end up in conflict. And a lot of people are intimidated by making that report, or even as simple as you made it as online, filing a complaint that way, people are still intimidated by filing those, you know, people standing up to law enforcement is very intimidating for a lot of people. At least that's what I did. Not me from previous experience, but for others.
And hopefully, the next time we come back here, you're going to say, well, it got a little bit better. Next time we come back here, you're going to say, we got a lot better. You know, and one of the things that we're talking about, you know, we are required that if any of you have a complaint, you can bring it to us. And the complaint that you give to us, we're going to take it to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and we'll be the go-between that complaint. So if there's any fear of retaliation, I know sometimes that's a natural fear that people have of law enforcement, you can come through us, and we'll guarantee you that we'll follow up that complaint. That it's not going to sit away in somebody's desk, because I'm not saying that happens now. But we'll be that watchdog for your complaint. We'll get back to you and say, this is what the department did. And then the ACLU does that. I didn't say at the beginning. One section of the order requires the creation of a body that's called the Community Advisory Board. Ms. Lisa Duran is here in the Community Advisory Board. She's one of the 3 members that were selected to be part of this board. They're basically also your eyes and ears. They're basically your contact. So if you don't want to come to us, if you don't want to go to the captain of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, you can go to them and express concern. You know, they will have the opportunity to take a look at policies, to take a look at protocols, to see whether it makes sense, to see whether they like it, to see whether they have any suggestions, and so on and so forth. So it's another way that you can get your message across. You don't want to talk to the deputy, that's fine. You don't want to talk to me, that's fine. You may want to talk to her. The more people you can talk to, because the last thing that they want to hear is what you're saying. And I'm not saying what you're saying is correct, but this is a lie. The policemen are your policemen. You're paying their salary. In the city that I worked for, Miami, for many years, they're paying my salary. You know, they're my bosses. The 500,000 people that live there, they're my bosses. You know, and policing, even though I have to do my job, you know, it's my job is to make sure that you're satisfied with the job I'm doing. When you hire somebody to paint your house, you know, you tell them what color you want. If you hire me, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to paint it yellow. So how long do you know? Well, that's the color I'm going to paint it. Well, the police department is the same way. You have the police department, because there are laws that they have to be enforced. Sometimes you don't like it because you were speeding and they're what you were thinking, but that's their job. And hopefully you were speeding, and hopefully they're doing the right thing. You know, they have to enforce the law. But I mean, you're the one that got to tell them, I don't want to yell, I want to cry. But, you know, this is not the enforcement that you want. This is the focus that you have. You know, there's a school here, there's speeding. You know, when school gets out, please do some traffic enforcement. And here, you know, that's the type of police department that you want. But you have to trust in them, and you ask for something that
seems like training is such an important part of what is going on. I'm just curious, who decides what's being trained? Who's developed what's being trained? How does that process work? Who decides? Who develops the training program?
The order was very specific as to what to train on. Okay. And it's got for racial profiling. You know, to include A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know, so like from A to M. To cover this, to cover that, to cover this, so on and so forth. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office hired an outside expert to create the training. After that training was created, the curriculum was created. There was a lot of oversight. The plaintiffs usually look at that curriculum. We took a we should look at that curriculum, including with members of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, what was like this, turned to be like that at the end, to make sure that that's the type of training that we all felt comfortable with, that met what the orders say, because the order's the guide. There's different ways to do it. The training the judge even showed up with the training. He showed up at a couple of training sessions to make sure that the training that's being provided is the training that he perceived, he foresaw in the order. When the trainers were selected, there was a training class for those trainers. To make sure if you're not going to do the training, that I'm doing it this way and you're doing it the other way, to make sure the message was the same. And so I mean, the judge even showed up to train the trainers.
So the training company hired people in-house to train the...
Some people were in-house, some people were recommended by the ACLU to be trainers, who are attorneys, experts in this area, whatever. So there's a combination of inside, outside, that has to do with it. But we send our monitors to the training and to observe. They're doing what they're supposed to. And when we see something as well, doesn't matter who the trainer is, we say that they went off base. Police training is not simple. Police don't want to sit there for 20 hours and go like this, and sometimes they have to have hard questions. That are what if? And sometimes that what if question is difficult to put in a nice little box to do this. So you have to make sure that the answer to those questions fall within the order. But you're right, training is the crunch of the order. Because you can't expect people to perform in a certain way, so it's to train with us. And a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money has been spent on the training. It's not over yet. The first 2 phases of the training should be over by December of this year. Most of the school have gone through it already. Then the next phase is supervisory training. Because you want the deputies when they're out in the street, and the supervisors out there with them. Like the chief, you don't want the supervisor sitting in the office doing paperwork the whole day. You want to be out there with the deputy showing up at calls, expectedly or unexpectedly. Say, hey, Joe, how's it going? Can I help you? Because the supervisor should be out there to make sure that the deputy should know that the supervisor can show up on any call that he receives.
And some kind of ongoing stuff as well, some refresher training.
Yes.
Years in the
Right, and the order says that. You must do this in the first year, you must repeat it every other year. Depending on the type of training, it gives you parameters for it, you must repeat it. Beyond all the other normal training that the deputies have to go through, that is state mandated training, that you have X amount of hours per year to do it. So it's a lot of training, it's training intensive, because that's the building block for everything. And the challenge is, for them is, how can I send all those deputies to training and keep, police officers on the street that keep the street safe?
Just out of curiosity, do they do role playing? Where
some of the training does do that.
There's what we call scenario training, where there are scenarios brought forward and there's 3 or 4 different outcomes to that scenario. What would you do in this case? What would you do in that case? So I wouldn't necessarily call it role playing, but absolutely group scenarios, individual scenarios, and a lot of interaction between instructors and the attendees.
And there's a test at the end of the training. So if you sat there and you doze off for your 2 days of training and you woke up on the last day, the odds of you passing the test are slim and none. And if you don't pass the test after X amount of drive, you go back to training again to go through it. So I mean that's as good as it's going to be for any type of training, to do it. But it's so far we agree that the training has been very good. Any other questions?
Okay, when I didn't finish asking, on the track system, that's more than just traffic stops, right? Every contact they make, a lot of contacts are not traffic related. So are the tracks?
There's 30 some odd indicators for items that
The track system?
Track.
Track system, you're monitoring it. Is it more than just traffic stop? I mean, if say deputy comes across 2 pedestrians on the side of highway somewhere or something, is that information included in that as well?
It's used mainly in the traffic enforcement part of it, as far as now we have the e-ticketing system as part of that. So you have the ability to, it's going to capture whatever you put into it. They're not mandated to put it in on every public contact.
Like if you had an FI card, you know, fill that,
No, it's only on traffic,
Only
traffic
traffic.
stops.
But there's other systems to capture that data. However, I can't think of the name of it.
We have under the JWI, Justice Web Interface, we can capture the FI data.
Okay.
So it's a matter of our Bureau of Internal Oversight, you know, to
Deciphering that.
to put both of those systems to gather the data and put it together.
Any other questions, suggestions, or thoughts?
Interested in an opinion?
Sure.
I'll take the analogy of the Firearms Academy. When they teach you to shoot a gun, and you point it at somebody with the intent of shooting them, you want to be sure who's behind it, behind that person. Well, I think the DOJ used a shotgun, and they just shot out there and hit everybody who was anywhere affiliated or associated with the sheriff's office. What I have learned, 20 hours was set through, and the other 14 hours of e-learning that I've gone through, if I did half of those things, the deputy would arrest me and throw me in jail, because I have no law enforcement authority.
Can you give us an example of this?
For example,
Yeah.
I know how now to make a high-risk felony stop. I mean, and who I can question and who I can't in there. I know what I can ask for, what kind of ID. I now know how to treat an inmate in jail, how many potty breaks he has to have, and when he has to have them. I'm not going to do that stuff.
Right, and as a posse, you're in that disadvantage where you're getting training in areas that you're never going to do or likely ever to do it. But again, remember what the thrust of this training was. The training was the deputies.
I understand that.
Right, and the order went beyond the deputies, went to the posses to go through it. Even though you're getting training that you're saying if you do it, you're going to go to jail because you don't have the authority to make a felony arrest or to do that. I mean, hopefully gives you a better perspective of what they're doing or how they do it, and it hopefully gives you the perspective. If you see one of them not doing the way they went to the training, look, is there something going on? Because I went to the training and that's not the way that you understood the training, and you say, I don't have the power to do it like you do, but you know, I remember the instructor saying, you do it this way, and I see you doing it the other way. You know, did I misunderstand what you do? So you're also the eyes and ears, because you're possibly also a member of the student to do that. And if you see any officer, any deputy is doing something that you feel may not be correct, you may go to the supervisor and say, look, I was riding with Deputy Jones, and he's doing something that either he misunderstood the training, or he or she misunderstood the training and is doing something that's wrong, and it's not talented, but you may be protecting that deputy from at some point getting handcuffs, doing something wrong, getting fired, or doing something wrong, and their career is being cut short. So even though part of the training, you may see it as something you will never do, you will never be inside of jail, you know, checking with inmates to see whether they ate their meal or whatever is covered in that area. You know, who knows what you may be able to see in the future that may help that deputy, may help the agency, or.
Well, the training was very important, and the only thing that got hurt was my rate for certain.
At a certain age, we sit, especially in areas like this, you know, after an hour and a half, whatever it is.
But it wasn't, I know more about the 12th and 14th Amendment than I ever did.
You know, we appreciate people like you who take your time, you know, to do that. It shows a lot of commitment, a lot of involvement. You know, that you're willing to take about 20 hours for something that you may say, I might have to take a $30,000 to do that, but at least you get that commitment to the product. I'm sure that is.
We certainly need to ask the question.
Any other comments, thoughts? Well, again, yes, sir.
Yeah, you know, like, I was arrested 2 times for sure drug fire. One willingly, because the second time for retaliation. But both times, when I was in jail, there were sheriff deputies in jail that came up to me and very, very low told me, so loud about my hearing, they whispered in my ear, keep it up, keep it up. And there were other deputies that actually I wish I could tell you more things, but I can't because of the cameras. And you know, I wasn't even at that time where they put me there. And I was also here at one of the stops where this lady was taken away from. She was taken away. She was not even Mexican. She looked Mexican, but I think she was on the island. And she was taken away because she forgot her driver's license at home. And she didn't have anything outside of her. She had her husband, her kids, and everything else. She was taken away. It's right here, not too far from here on Dollar Road. But what I'm trying to say is this, that I have seen willingness from many of the rank and file officers to change. I have seen that. And I know that most officers want to do the right job, they're there to protect the community. I know that too. But I think the problem is, and I was on the report yesterday, and the problem is that an elected official is not necessarily a police officer, it's a politician. We have a problem when a politician wants to get reelected and basically utilizes the trend that's going on against what they call undocumented aliens. And with that, they create a whole atmosphere of fear, a whole atmosphere in some of the police officers. And at the end, there is no willingness from that officer, that elected official. I'm talking about Sheriff Joe. And the thing is, unless that happens, there's also going to be a remnant of officers that are going to be feeling like they're being imposed on, that they're being, like basically run over, and that you have outsiders coming in to tell them what to do. Now, from what I saw yesterday in the court, I think that has frustrated the judge for a lot, and frustrated some of the people there. But the thing is, I know they're going to send Sheriff Joe to the same training that everybody else got, which I think is good. But again, how do you isolate the influence of a popular sheriff like Sheriff Joe, very popular, on the rank and file officers? And that's what I don't understand how it's going to happen. Because we don't trust Sheriff Joe. I mean, we've seen what he did over there, all over the place.
Our law as a monitor is we work in the court. And the court is very specific. It doesn't matter who the sheriff is. The order says the sheriff, or whomever the sheriff may be, if they're not in compliance, if what you're saying is correct, if it's a group that will continue to violate your rights, so on and so forth, we'll see. You'll see. You'll tell us about it. We'll find out about it. And the order will continue. And it's going to cost them a lot of money. It's going to cost them more training. It's going to cost them more negative things to occur to the police department. I agree with you. Our contact with the rank and file has been very positive. They want change. They want new officers. They want good policing. They want to serve you. Like this gentleman who's committed to his own neighborhood, who's giving his own time to do it. There's a lot of people who want to do a lot of good work. Doesn't matter who the sheriff is. If they're doing good work, good work is there. Again, we're going to go with the politics. That's not our job. That's kind of what the order says. That's for you. You're the citizens. You're the ones that make those decisions. To us, we're neutral. We're saying paragraph 27 says this. Are they complying with paragraph 27? We talk to the rank and file on the field, and to make sure if there's negative influences, it'll be seen on the property. If there's any negative influence, it's not on the property, it's not on the property. It doesn't matter what people may be saying or not saying. If what they're saying is impacting on the field, and they're being disrespectful, if they're not doing the type of policing that you want, we'll see that. And our reports will be very clear. We don't have blinders. We know what good policing is. We know what bad policing is. And we'll be able to report it to the court. And the court will take whatever action. There's departments that the court has taken even more extreme steps when they see X amount of time has gone by. And again, this order just started, so it's in the baby steps. But after a while, and there's no progress, and then the court says, well, you were doing this, and now because you haven't been progress in X amount of time, now you got to do this, and that. So if the department refuses to comply, and we can prove that there's lack of compliance, the order will get stricter. There's departments that are under an order for ages that basically never got off the order, that never got off the oversight. Yeah, and so it's not something that the agency wants, that any agency wants, but it's compliant. There's many agencies, and we have people in the monitoring team that used to be agencies that used to be under oversight. You know, and they complied, they got off their agreement or the order, whatever, and they're part of our team. They were sitting at the other side, and we were the monitor, our team was the monitor, and they were able to bring the department up to that level, that quality level that says, okay, now you're a good police, now you have the best practice, now you comply with what most agencies should be doing. So hopefully it's a process that's going to work. It's a process that works, because there's no alternative other than working. Because if not, we'll be sitting here 10 years from now talking to you or somebody else who will be here instead of me telling you, out of 87 paragraphs, they have to comply with 2. And instead of getting better, they're getting worse. But I can guarantee you, this judge is very involved. If you were in the court yesterday, I saw him in the courtroom, this judge knows what he's talking about. He knows this case up and down. He's not going to allow the department, should that happen, that they're looking the other way and they're not complying with the order, he's not going to allow that to happen. Anything else? Thank you all for being here. And again, if you have any concerns, if you want to raise your hand and talk about it, Ms. Ramirez has some forms that you can let us know any concerns that you have, so we can get the conversation.